Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory just due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from and who do it well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000, the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit, and I'm entitled this one, Majority of these people don't know what's coming next, because we see what's going on around the world, all the different prophecies that are popping out the page, that's very evident that the end of this kingdom being ruled by the so-called white man Esau, Edom, is almost up. His time of ruling upon the planet Earth is coming to an end, like it says in the scriptures. Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. But the only ones who are going to be in the know are going to be the hopeful elect, while the rest of these people out here in the world, these two-third Jakes, these two-third Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the true Israelites, and the rest of these heathens, because you do have some heathens, these so-called white people, these red-blooded Edomites that are in the know that America, Babylon the Great's about to collapse. Their mindset is that, okay, this country's about to collapse. I'm gonna prepare carnally. I'm a doomsday prep. I'm gonna stock up on all these different basic necessities, from canned goods, water, power generators, the different forms of victuals, which is basic necessities, and even on gold and silver, because their mindset is, okay, we're going to go through this very rough path of the collapse of the current superpower, America. And along with the collapse of America is really the collapse of the whole world, because the world thrives on America buying all their goods. Like it says in Revelation chapter 18, when America gets destroyed, when it gets utterly destroyed by those thermonuclear missiles, all these countries are going to mourn, America collapsing and being burned up, because America's the number one consumer. So when that happens, all these countries pretty much are going to be through along with America. But these people, their mindset is, okay, it's going to collapse and it's going to rise from the ashes, just like during the 1929 Great Depression and World War II, and the 2008 world financial crisis. But no, this is it. This is the end of America, and it's not going to bounce back. After this, it's the kingdom of heaven. But majority of these people, they don't know that. They believe that it's going to go through a rough path and, it's going to bounce back, but it's not. This is the end of this devil's Esau, Edom's rulership. This is Proverbs 29 and verse 18, where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. And there's no vision. There's no optimism. These people don't really know what the hell is going on. And even if they think they do, it don't align with biblical prophecy. The prophecies of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is ultimately to destroy America by thermonuclear missiles. But majority of the world, they don't know that. They think that it's going to bounce back, that it's going to heal. But it's not, man. America's done, and it's not going to be healed. And along with these people that don't have the vision, that don't have the eye salve, with, majority of our people, the two-thirds of the nation of Israel, they're going to be destroyed along with it. But the elect, they know what times we're in. They know, that we're in the end days of America, Babylon the Great. And it's not going to be healed. It's only going to get worse from here. This is Hosea chapter 4 and verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. Thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy power. I will also forget thy children. So majority of our people, they're about to be destroyed because they don't know what times we're in. They don't know that Babylon the Great, it's about to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. That it's about to be destroyed by those intercontinental ballistic missiles that everybody believes that they're not going to be used. And the majority of our people, they're going to take that MOTB. They're going to bow down to this beast system because they don't fear Yahweh Bashim El Shai. They think that this is the end all be all. You know, along with these heathens, even if they don't take it, they're going to be destroyed along with our people, because ultimately the only ones who are going to be making it out of this upcoming destruction are going to be the elect of the nation of Israel, the 1/3, you know, the 144,000, wherever they may be scattered. And, you know, the 1/3 here in America, the believers, you know, helps, prophets, and along with that 1/3, you know, 140, some of the 144,000 consist of that 1/3, but, you know, majority of our people, they're not going to make it because they rejected Yahweh Bashim El Shai. You know, because majority of our people, they're asleep. They don't know what the hell is going on. They think that everything's okay, that, you know, just because you're able to go to your job, you know, work your 9 to 5, pay your taxes, you know, have the weekends off, go to the game, the bread and circus, and everything's, you know, fine and dandy, but it's not. This place is collapsing. You know, the dollar's through. You know, people are getting laid off in mass numbers. You know, Thanksgiving is right around the corner. It's next week, but people aren't in that spirit. You can feel that spirit of the holiday season. You know, is not out here, because ultimately Yahweh Bashim El Shai is taking the mirth out of this place. This is Isaiah 29 and verse 9. Stay yourselves in wonder, cry ye out, and cry they are drunken, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with strong drink. So majority of our people, they've been put to sleep by the so-called American dream, by the ways of Babylon the Great, by Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, throwing all these mass psyops. Now you got Esau, Edom, you know, about to release the Epstein files, knowing, letting you know that, you know, a mass psyop, a mass distraction is about to take place, because something way darker is happening behind the scenes. But that's what Esau, Edom always does. You know, he throws these mass psyops. You know, the captain, you know, Calvin Klein, you know, the Captain Kirk situation a couple months ago, you know, when he got off on live TV, you know, and ultimately Esau Edom pushing that narrative that he was an American hero. Now he's about to do the same. Now he's about to distract these people with the Epstein files, you know, pushing them out so people get, you know, revolt more and more, because we see that, you know, this place is collapsing. But along with what Esau Edom is doing, you know, he's taking everybody down with as many people as he can. You know, and a lot of Jake, they're probably in that Epstein file. You know, the Jay-Z's, the Kanye West, you know, those type of people. You know, but our people, they flock more to celebrity gossip than to what the hell is really going on, which is the NWO being established right in front of everybody's faces. Verse 10, for the Lord Yahweh Bashim El Shai had poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and had closed your eyes, the prophets and your rulers, the seers hath he covered. So even these so-called Christian churches, these other Israelite camps, they're not warning their people that America's done, that it's about to collapse. You know, and even these Edomite churches, you know, they're not being warned about the NWO system, you know, the digital enslavement of humanity. No, they're telling them that America's going to be okay, that, you know, we're just going through a rough time, that it's going to be okay, you know, everything's going to bounce back. We're just going through a rough period, a bad financial period, but eventually it's going to bounce back. But that's Yahweh Bashim El Shai putting these people to sleep, because he wants majority of these people to get put to death, to starve to death, to get put to death by the sword, because that's Yahweh Bashim El Shai as well. The only ones who are going to be delivered are going to be the elect, because they were in a no before all hell breaks loose, and ultimately because they're part of the elect. This is Isaiah 33 and verse 6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation, the fear of the Lord is his treasure. And that's right. Only the elect of Yahweh Bashim El Shai, of the nation of Israel, they're going to be stable in these times. And how much more when all hell breaks loose? Because Yahweh Bashim El Shai gave him the spirit to understand, okay, the reason why this place is crumbling is ultimately because it's wicked. Because for the kingdom of heaven to be established upon the planet Earth, for America to be destroyed, these prophecies have to play out. And knowing that, that gives us comfort, us of the hopeful elect, because we know that we have to go through these things. We know that we have to go through that straight gate, to get to the end road, which is the kingdom of heaven. But the majority of these people, they're bugging out. They're bugging out in the green tree. They're getting laid off. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from. They don't know what the hell's about to happen next. But ultimately, that's Yahweh Bashim Shai, putting that spirit out there of confusion, perplexity. Because Yahweh Bashim Shai wants these people to be bugged out. Because their comfort was always, worldly comfort. The dollar, jobs, having a career, job stability, celebrating these holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. But now that that's being taken away, now these people are bugging the hell out, but not the elect, because the elect, they're going to be in that spirit of, okay, man, have this shit crash, because ultimately that just means that our salvation is nearer than what we believe. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 9 and verse 1. And it reads, he answered me and said, measure the times thou diligent in thyself, in which thou seest parts of the signs past, which I have told thee before. Verse 2, then thou shalt understand that the Most High, so like I'm going to read it again, verse 2, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made, and that's being made evident. All these things happening, all these natural disasters, people going against their government, it has to be of a higher power, because it's not just coincidence that all these people are revolting against their government because of an unfair rulership, like it says in the scriptures. When the wicked are in rulership, the people mourn, and ultimately they're mourning because the righteous are not in authority. And that's what's next upon the planet Earth, because Esau, Edom, he don't know how to rule the planet Earth. And it's being made evident how much of a devil he is, destroying life, destroying sea life, cutting trees down, polluting the air, polluting the water, poisoning his own servants, his own, slaves. That's letting you know that ultimately this devil isn't fit for rulership. And that's why Yahweh Bashim Shai is collapsing his system. Verse 3, therefore, when thou shalt be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing all these mass earthquakes in diverse places that have never been hit by earthquakes before. Uproars of the people. You just had a couple days ago over there in Mexico, people protesting against that tiny cap president, because people are tired of these politicians. They're tired of Esau, Edom ruling up on the planet Earth. Even Esau, Edom is tired of his own nation ruling. They be calling the tiny caps out, talking about y'all took all the blessing for yourselves. They're mad because they ain't share the blessing. Only the 1%, the elite banking families, they're the only ones hogging up the blessing, and these Edomites are mad. And that's what's going to lead to that civil war, that race war, nation against nation, left versus right, Republican versus Democrat, vax versus unvax. Because these people, they're mad. They're tired of this system, and really that's the spirit that they're supposed to be in. But these people, their solution is having these so-called white people, these Edomites, somehow be righteous rulers, upon the planet Earth. But that's not going to happen, because these wicked as Edomites, so-called white people, they were never meant to rule in righteousness. We're not going to have a righteous president, a righteous Edomite, because they were only put in rulership to be an example of how not to rule the planet Earth. And what happens when you rule the earth in complete wickedness is ultimately going to be judgment. That's why the nation of Edom, Esau, Edom, is going to be done away with after they served that 1,000 long hardcore year slavery. Verse 4, then shalt thou will understand that the Most High spake of these things from the days that were before thee, even from the very beginning. Verse 5, for like as all that is made in the world had a beginning and the end is manifest, and is being made manifest that the end of this kingdom of Babylon, the Great America, of Esau, Edom, is done. It's not going to be healed. It's not going to be prolonged any longer. But only the elect are going to know that, while the rest of these heathen nations, they're going to be caught up in their false hope, their false sense of reality that somehow everything's going to bounce back, everything's going to be okay.